All right, friends. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos from absolutely stunningly beautiful weather, Huntington. Today was probably one of the nicest days I've experienced in a while. Got to sit on the front porch, talk to a friend I haven't spoken to in some time, and even the dogs were quiet. They were out in the back, laying in the sun. But it was sunny. The sky was blue. There's some clouds, but that's okay. It was a nice breeze on the front porch, and the humidity was, well, I could actually do stuff with my hair. But it was an absolutely gorgeous day leading into what promises to be an amazing, amazing Shabbat. Let's see, are there any other good news? Nope, that was it. Just a beautiful day here. We have Judy. She's going to bench licht for us. She's going to light the Shabbos candles. And if you want to follow along, the bracha is on page 2. The reading is on page 3.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
All right, let's begin Kabbalat Shabbat, welcoming the Shabbos. And let's do a responsive reading on page 6. The second responsive reading on page 6. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, things to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be an assembly block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
All right, let's continue on page 20. You'll find Lecha Dodi coming to us from the mystical city of Tzfat, up in the north in the Galil, very green and beautiful up there. Right outside the city is kind of built on part of the city. The old city is on the side of a cliff. And when you walk down, there are all these stone steps that lead around. Takes you down to a huge cemetery in which a number of the Mekubalim, the Kabbalists, are buried, and a number of Hasidic masters. And so you'll see people down there. And it also, I don't know this from experience, but someday I'll do it, has the world's coldest mikvah. The world's coldest mikvah, where you go in, and they say if you can dunk yourself 100 times in the near frigid waters, you guarantee your spot in the world to come. And the screams you hear coming out of that mikvah are, but people do it. People do it. They come out blue. But it's a mystical city. It's a beautiful city. And this is where we get Lecha Dodi. Top of page 20, verses 1, 2, 3, and 4, 8, and 9. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad. Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, ushmo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'litchila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor ha-bracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila, lecha dodi likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nikabela, mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzei mitoch hafecha, rav lahak shevet b'yemecha bacha, v'hu yachamol alaychem la, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela, Itna ari me'afar kumi, livshi bigdei tifarte chami, al yad ben ishai beit lachmi, gorva el nafshi ge, Allah lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela, yamin usmol tifrotzi, Diet Adonai taritzi, al yadish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela, bohi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha ufsola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Let's turn to page 22, where we'll find verses from Psalm 92, also known as the Psalm for Shabbat. And we'll read the outdented paragraph in English together, and then Tzadik Katamar together in Hebrew. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai. How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Tzadikatam har yifrach, ke'erez balvanon, Yiskeh shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu ojenuvun b'seva Deshenim vera'ananim yihiyu lehagid ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatabo. Page 24. We'll welcome the angels who come to spend Shabbat with us. On Shabbat, everything is doubled, right? We get a double loaf of challah, and the rabbis teach we get an extra soul, right? The neshama yetera that comes down to accompany our weekday soul for Shabbat, and we get 2 angels who accompany us to and from synagogue. And so we're going to welcome those angels with Shalom Aleichem, the traditional greeting, page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mihi melech, malachei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch hu ni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mihi melech, malachei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mihi melech, malachei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. We have officially welcomed Shabbat. Along with the angels, we've welcomed the Shabbos bride, and now we're ready to move into Arvit, the evening service for Shabbat. We've put the work week behind us, and now we're ready to enter our day of rest. Page 145, Chatzi Kaddish. Yikadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon hu v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Bahagala, uv'izmahan kahariv, v'yimeru, amen. Yehei Rabba mevorach, le'olam lo me'almaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shmei dekudisha, b'richu, le'la min kol birchata, v'shirata, tushbechata, v'nechemata, Damiram be'alma, v'yimeru, amen. We are on page 146, the formal call to the evening service, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed. On page 147, let's read responsively. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky, sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom.
Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures.
Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 148, Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta, al kein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shofreinu uvkumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nisbach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, Le'olam va'ed, ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu, uvehem nehege yomam v'layla, ve'ahabatecha atasir mimenu le'olamim, baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'beitecha uvlektecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha l'mahan tizkeruhu V'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 151. In the middle, let's read responsively in English. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Top of page 152. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Nohora tehilot, o sefele, malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokeyam lifnei Moshe, zeili anu v'amru, Adonai yimloch li'olam va'ed, v'nehemar ki far Adonai et Yaakov, Uga'alo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Top of 153, the first two lines of Hashkivenu, and then we'll read together in English. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, V'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, V'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence, we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. Turn now to page 154, verses from the book of Shemot, from the book of Exodus. It's not Shabbat without it. Vishamru, 154 at the top. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We have reached the Amidah, the centerpiece, the central prayer of the evening service. It begins on 155 and continues through 167. We'll chant 155, 156, and 157 together, and then you can continue with your silent prayer. And you can follow along with us in the Hebrew, read the English, or offer up your own prayer during this time. Page 155, the beginning of the Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Umagin. Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Abraham, V'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atarav Lahoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechaye Metim B'Rachamim Rabim. Somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir hasubim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al givurot, umidom behelach, Melech menit omechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman ata l'chayot beitim. Baruch ata Adonai mechayei hametim. If you're still completing your Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're going to continue together reading in the middle of 160. 160. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. And may all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Turn to page 163, a little bit of hoda'ah, a little bit of gratitude. And for this week, actually, I have a friend who's had a number of problems. Was homeless for a number of years and was getting his life back together, and he kind of fell off the grid again. And after a number of months of searching for him and having people go look for him, he reached out to me last night. So I am grateful, and he's well, not in the best of shape, but considering what he's been through, he's in a good place. So that's my big ticket gratitude item for the week, but lots of smaller things as well. So page 163 at the top, let's read responsibly. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hands and minds, we offer praise.
For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being.
And we'll close out the Amidah on 164 with Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace. All the major prayers in our tradition end with a prayer for peace. 164, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom grahav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom grahav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha livarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We're going to jump ahead to page 253, the Mishaberach. And if you have anyone who needs a little extra healing this Shabbat going into next week, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, any kind of healing, keep them close to your hearts and in your thoughts as we sing Mishaberach, middle of page 253. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mikor habracha Leimoteinu. Bless thee, the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imoteinu Mikor habracha Leavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Continue with prayers for our community, pages 258, 259, and we'll read these together. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion in prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. Sha'alu shalom Yerushalayim, Yishlayu ohavayich. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Avinu Shabashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Go'alo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reishit Smichat Geulatenu, Hagein Aleha B'Evrat Chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha V'Amitcha L'Rosheha Sareha V'Yoetzeha, B'Taknein B'Eitza Tova Milfanecha, B'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz, B'Simchat Olam Liyoshveha V'Nomar Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos. This week, we are in the second parsha of Devarim, Ve'et Chanan, and Moshe continues his last speeches, book of speeches by Moshe. He tells the people how he pled with God to allow him to enter the land, and he's disappointed at being refused. Right? And I usually like the Midrash, but there's one particular Midrash I really dislike, and it's the one where the rabbis say that Moshe, when he gets up to Olam Haba, he goes to God and he says, listen, I prayed to you 500 times and you still said no. What could I have done to convince you? And God, apparently in the mind of the rabbi, says to Moses, you should have prayed 501 times. And never liked that Midrash, still don't like that Midrash. But this in this week's Torah portion, Moshe relates to Bnei Yisrael that he has asked God and God has still said no. He goes up to Pisgah, which is an elevated area, a high place on the east side of the Yarden, and he's able to see the land. So he gets to see the land, but he just doesn't get to go in. And he reminds the people that God has given them laws and commandments by which they should live in the land. Right? He's not talking to the generation that was at Har Sinai. He's not talking to the generation that was part of the Exodus. He's talking to a generation that was born in the desert. They didn't know slavery. All they knew was wandering. And he reminds them, the people, of the time that they stood at Mount Horeb. And he calls it Horeb instead of Sinai. And he says that we received the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 utterances. We were told not to worship idols. We're told that failure to observe the commandments would mean that we would be driven from the land. But if we search for God in our hearts, God will never fail or forsake us. And he speaks about the unique relationship between God and the Jewish people. And then he sets aside 3 more cities of refuge. We talked about those a couple of weeks ago. He sets aside Betzer, Ramot, and Golan as these sanctuary cities. He repeats the covenant made at Horeb. He recites the Aseret HaDibrot again. But there are a couple of changes, especially dealing with Shabbat. Before it was Zachor at Yom HaShabbat, and this one is Shamor at Yom HaShabbat. And he reminds them that in their fear, that they all said, no, don't let God speak to us anymore. You receive all the rest and get it back to us. And then he gives the Shema and the V'ahavta. They come one right after the other in this week's Parsha. And to the parents, he says, when the children ask what is the meaning of this, he says, we're to tell our children that we were slaves. God freed us so that we might inherit the land promised to our ancestors. And then he speaks about conquering the land, dislodging the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. I often refer to them as all of the ites, right? The land was not empty. It wasn't just waiting for us. There were people living there, and we had to go and, well, not so politely, get them to leave. He says, don't intermarry with those tribes. That will lead to bad things. That we are chosen to be a treasured people, an Am Segulah, a treasured people, and that there will be a reward for observing the mitzvot, but destruction for those who do not. And he ends on that note. Usually it doesn't end on a downer, but this week's it does. And so that is Parshat Ve'et Hanan in a nutshell. Today is a most auspicious day. This Shabbat, it's doubly special. It's Shabbat and it's Tu B'Av. It's the 15th of Av. And I know you're all excited about that. And I know that this is a great day for you and you just can't wait to get out and start dancing. But for those who don't know what Tu B'Av is, let's take a little a moment and talk about it. But most people don't know the importance of this day. It's the most minor of the minor festivals. It's even more minor than Hanukkah. And Hanukkah doesn't even show up in the Bible. But Tu B'Av is it's where we find forgiveness for one of the two great sins that our ancestors committed. That's the word, committed. The sin that I'm talking about is the sin of when they believed the spies, that the spies came back from the land and said, well, the land is pretty good. It's got lots of fruit, lots of vegetables. It's wonderful, but there are giants there. And we must have looked like grasshoppers. And we're not going to be able to conquer the land. And so 10 of the spies said that. 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, said, no, God promised us. And even though there are people living there, we'll be able to handle it. And so the people listened to the 10 and they left up a great cry. And God said, you want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. And that's Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, which we had last Motzei Shabbos, last Sunday. The other sin, in case you were wondering, is the sin of the Egel HaZahav, the golden calf. And so that was, a big ticket kind of sin. But the rejection of God and the land, they could have conquered the land 40 years earlier. But they rejected God and the land. And so it becomes prophetic, actually, of the later exiles, the later period when we are exiled from the land, and also, it seemed, from God. Yom Kippur brings forgiveness for the golden calf. Tu B'Av brings forgiveness for the sin of the spies, according to one tradition. Tu B'Av marks the end of the 40 years of wandering and immediately precedes entering the land. Right? So that's wonderful about Tu B'Av to begin with. No longer were our ancestors abandoned in the desert, and we can end our aimless wanderings and begin to move forward. Tu B'Av provides a nice contrast of joyous celebration, fulfilling the 3 weeks of ever increasing gloom leading to Tisha B'Av. Right? So it's now Tisha B'Av is behind us, and we can now finally breathe. And it falls 7 days after Tisha B'Av, almost as if it were meant to be the end of a period of mourning, right? 7 days of mourning when a loved one dies, and we get up. And so the idea of what we think about on Tisha B'Av is the destruction. We think about death. We think about what our ancestors had lost. And on Tu B'Av, we step away from that. And we say, okay, we've had our moment of mourning, and now we're going to move forward. Because at the end of the month, in 2 weeks, the month of Elul begins. And that is the month of preparation for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. So Tu B'Av is this great moment now where we can look forward right? We spend the summer kind of dreading Tisha B'Av, and now we can look forward to the high holidays. In a more modern sense, though, Tu B'Av is kind of lahavdil. I don't want to say it this way, but it's kind of like a Valentine's Day. We don't have a Valentine's Day in the tradition, but Tu B'Av is as close as we come, right? Because in the days of the Second Temple, 2,000 years ago, this was when the matchmakers would bring their matches out and try to pair off people, right? So Tu B'Av was that. In the days of the Bible, in the days of the Torah, the rabbis teach us that this was when the tribes would intermingle, and the single women would go out into the fields dressed in their finest, and the young men would go out looking for these well-dressed females and hopefully find the love of their life there. In Israel today, it wouldn't probably be, we wouldn't be doing it tonight because it's Erev Shabbat, but these are times where there are festivals, open-air festivals of singing and dancing, and again, people go and maybe find the love of their life in a field where they were dancing, and you know what that leads to, right? Lots of fun things. But that's Tu B'Av, and it starts tonight, carries through Shabbat, and it's a nice way to put the summer behind us and start looking forward to the high holidays, which are exactly 7 weeks away. So Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos. All right, I don't have Sam here to remind me, but I know it is now Kiddush time. It is time for Kiddush for Erev Shabbat. Or Leil Shabbat, actually. Not Erev Shabbat, Leil Shabbat, Shabbat evenings. Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker, Yom HaShishi, Vayechulu HaShamayim V'Haaretz, V'chol Tzivam, Vayechal Elohim, Vayom HaShvi'i, Melachto Asher Asa, Vayishbot Vayom HaShvi'i, Mikol Melachto Asher Asa. Vayavarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi'i, Vayikadesh Oto, Kivo Shavat Mikol Malachto, Asher Bara Elohim La'asot. Savri, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam, Borei Peri Hagafen. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam, Asher Kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lamikra'ei kodesh zecher letziyat mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. All right, page 282. We'll start to close out our service. Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula liotzer reishit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol ha'monam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. אלוקי שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרומים אלוהינו אחד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבתה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד. ושמו echad. We are in the Shloshim for Shai Selek, nephew of Maxine Yeged. This week we observed the following yahrzeits: James Cohen, Peggy's husband, Davy's brother; Mayor Davis, Bob's father; Oki Napier, Evelyn Goldstaff, relative of Jack Gottlieb; Marvin Newman, first husband of Margie Feder Leventhal; Florence Fishman, Harry Greenstein's niece, Irving's cousin; Joseph Stern, husband of Anna, father of Coleman; Rabbi Abraham Feinstein, Ohev Shalom's first permanent rabbi; Bertram G. Landau Sr., father of Bert; Ida Cutler, wife of Jack, mother of Rose Aronson, daughter of Ben and Rosa Melman; Abraham Miller, W. Schnitt's father; Harold Sidney Shradsky, husband of Ruth, father of Bernice and Marjorie; Esther Rose Cohen, relative of Nancy Cohen Tarbis; Rose Feldman, relative of Harry Fallon; Samuel H. Glick, David and Billy's grandfather; Morris Rose, father of Elaine Skolik. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us all, and may they always rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 294. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shmei Rabbah, B'yalma Divrach Hirutei, B'yamlik Malchutei, B'chayechon, U'vyomechon, U'vchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala U'vizman Kariv V'yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Lomei Almaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh. V'yithadar V'yitaleh V'yithalal Shmei D'Kudusha B'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata da'amiram v'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. All right, friends, we are right at the end of our service, just a couple of quick announcements. Services tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., and then again on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. No adult ed for the remainder of the month. We pick up again in the second week of August, take a couple of weeks off, have a couple of weeks on. And so we'll be picking up with our Let My People Know, a taste of Talmud. Monday night at 6:30, we have our deep dive into Genesis. We're still with that pesky creation of man and woman. So we haven't moved very far in the last 2 weeks, but we're going to be making some headway. So that's at 6:30. And if you've never joined us, feel free. You're not behind. There's no before or after here. Then Wednesday night is the best little Yiddish choir anywhere. I keep telling you, I'm taking them on the road. I'm talking to people in Germany. I'm going to put them in a bag and take them to Germany and let them sing their Yiddish songs to the Jewish communities in Germany. Well, first we'll get them to the singing here for American communities first, right? But that's Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Scott and Tam handle that. And then we'll be back on Friday night. So enough's going on. Even though it's the summer, we're not taking it easy. So, and thank Judy for being my tech guru. Sam's not here this evening. And so let's close out on 321, Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chepso Kol Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levahado Yimloch Nora Vehu haya, vehu hoveh, vehu yeh b'tifara, vehu echad v'ein sheni, laham shelo lahachbira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, velo haoz v'hamisra, vehu eli v'chai goali. V'tzor chevli b'yeit tzara, v'hu nisi umanos li, menat kosi b'yom ekra, b'yahado avkid ruchi, v'yeit ishan v'yahira, v'im ruchi geviyati, Adonai li v'lo ira. All right, let's see who says hello to us this evening. From out in the interwebs, Cliff Wanamaker, Shabbat Shalom from the two of us in Pennsylvania. Well, Cliff, you are not two. You are not my mom as well, but I know that mom is there with you. So thank you. David Johnson, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Donna Wilson, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Shout out to Brooklyn, to Beth in Brooklyn, to Patty Ann and Aaron, to Melanie, and in Queens to Gila and Rob, and to everybody out there. Have a wonderful Shabbat, a Shabbat Shalom, a good Shabbos. We'll see you soon, and be careful out there.